I'm a 24-year-old girl. My name is Alyssa. I used to work at a Halloween costume shop. It was in a small town in West Virginia, and I will never forget this experience. This happened 3 years ago when I was 21. It was October 1st, the first day of the season. The store opened and would close on October 31st, so it was open for just 1 month. I liked working there since it was pretty chill. Not many people went there, and the ones that did just bought costumes and didn't cause any trouble. For the first week, everything was pretty normal, but the second week started to get really weird. On a random Tuesday, one man came in and I didn't feel right about his vibe. He had long, dirty blonde hair and dark brown eyes. He looked like he hadn't showered in months. Before he even said anything, he walked around the store for a long time, about an hour. Eventually, he grabbed a small pen off a rack near the register. That's all he bought. I don't know why, but I still remember the exact price, $2.46. As he walked out of the store, he said, "Bye, Alyssa." I gasped. I didn't tell him my name, and there was nowhere that said it. I was confused and scared. It was the end of my shift anyway, 9 o'clock, so I went home. I got takeout on my way home. And when I got back to my apartment, I ate my Panda Express. The next day, when I was going to work, I arrived at 1 o'clock. It was normal until about 7:30, when the same man from the day before walked in. I was nervous. If he knew my name, what else did he know about me? He walked around, picked up a costume, and brought it over to the counter. He bought it, and as he left, he said, "Tell your brother I said hi." I froze. How did he know I had a brother? I lived in his apartment while I saved money to buy one of my own. I never told anyone I lived with my brother, so it's not like anybody could have told the creepy man that. I worked 5 days a week to try to make money to move out. I was the only one who worked that shift, so no one else was there, which made me even more scared about that man. It was only the 9th, so I still had to work there for 22 more days. The years before, I never had any issues. After I was done working there, I got a different part-time job until I moved out. I now live in an apartment in Alabama. That night I forgot to get dinner and I was too lazy to cook. My brother was asleep, so I just ordered a DoorDash sausage pizza and went to sleep. Even though I went to bed at only 10 o'clock, I woke up at 11:30 a.m. It was only an hour and a half until I had to start my shift at work. I was dreading it because of that creepy man. I arrived at work and started stocking the shelves. Wednesday was the day the delivery truck arrived, so I had to unload it. There were about 200 costumes that I had to unload. After I was done, I just stuffed them into the storage room. It was about 5 o'clock now, and I knew that in probably 2 hours I'd be seeing that man. At this point, it seemed like part of the schedule. I was in the back room grabbing the costumes. I had chucked in there earlier when I heard the bell on the door. Clang. I looked out the door to see who was there. It was him. He started wandering around the store. I walked out of the back room and up to the register. He handed me the same costume he bought the day before. "I'm here to return this," he said. I asked if there was an issue with it. He shook his head and said, "No, just didn't like it." I could tell it was unopened, so I was confused. I paid him back, and as he left, he said, "Nice apartment. Your brother must pay a lot for it." Then he walked out. I was horrified by what he just said. I tried to tell myself he was probably just trying to scare me and didn't actually know where I lived. But then I remembered what he'd said the days before, knowing my name, knowing I lived with my brother. I was creeped out. Luckily, he always came at the end of my shift so I could go home right after. I got takeout again, this time from a local Mexican restaurant. I ordered 2 tacos and a quesadilla. On my way home, I noticed a bright orange Jeep following me. I still pulled into the apartment parking lot. I walked inside quickly. I saw the Jeep door open, but I didn't see who got out. I just ran inside the building. Luckily, the apartment complex had good security. I ran to my brother's apartment, flung open the door, and locked it. I sat down at the table and started eating my food. I was done eating in about 5 minutes. I woke up actually pretty early at 9 a.m. I ate breakfast, took a shower, and grabbed a few groceries. After putting everything away, I went to work. I walked into the back room to restock and screamed when I saw a man standing there. He spun around. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Who are you?" "Get out," I yelled. "I'm sorry for scaring you." I haven't left yet. I just finished my shift, he said. I nodded. He turned, clocked out, waved, and left. I grabbed a few costumes and started stocking the shelves. Then it got a little strange. A woman walked in. She looked like she was in her early 40s and seemed really confused. She asked where the tables and menus were, and why there were shelves and costumes, when it was an Applebee's. I was so confused. I said, "It's not. It's a Halloween costume store." "But it said Applebee's," she replied, still looking around, bewildered. I walked outside with her to show her it was a costume store. She laughed awkwardly. "Whoops, wrong door," she said, looking embarrassed. I laughed and said, "Easy mistake." She seemed confused but not threatening, so I brushed it off and kind of laughed about it. It was 6:30, so I knew any second now that man would be walking in. About 15 minutes later, he came walking in. This time, he walked straight to the left side of the store like he was on a mission. He grabbed a candy bucket, and that was all. He walked up to the counter but just stood there a few feet away, staring into space. I didn't say anything, just watched him. It was like he was in a trance. Finally, I asked, "Are you okay?" He immediately looked at me and said, "I'm fine." He walked up, handed me the bucket, and paid. As he left, he said something creepy. Every time it was scarier. This time he said, "I liked that shirt you bought yesterday." I froze. I was in shock. I bought that shirt online, and I was the only one who knew. My brother didn't even know since it arrived while he was at work. The only way someone else would know is if they'd watched me through the balcony window, which someone easily could. They'd just have to walk up the stairs and look through it. I was in horror. I just wanted my shift to be over. I was so scared I started to shake. I called my brother to tell him what had been happening since I hadn't mentioned any of it before, but he didn't answer. I texted him. It didn't go through. I assumed his phone was dead or had no reception. Finally, it was 9. Time for my shift to end. I was so relieved. I stopped at McDonald's on my way home and got a Big Mac meal and a fish sandwich. I was really hungry, so I ate while I drove. When I got to my brother's apartment, I immediately fell asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to tapping on my window. I looked out and saw a person run away from it. I couldn't see much except a running silhouette, but I could tell it was a man. I was too scared to scream. I closed my curtain and tried to go back to sleep, telling myself maybe my mind was playing tricks on me since I was half asleep anyway. I rolled over and tried to fall asleep. After about 10 minutes, I did. When I woke up, it was morning, 10:30 to be exact. I ate breakfast, showered, and went to work. It was Friday. When I walked into work, my boss was standing there staring at me angrily. I asked, "What are you doing here?" He said, "If you do that one more time, I'll fire you and call the police immediately." I was upset and confused. "What did I do wrong?" I asked. With a straight face, he said, "You stole 20 costumes and all the cash out of the register." "What, is this a joke?" I yelled. I would never do something like that. "Why do you even think it was me? Did you check the security cameras?" He said, "We didn't need to. You were the only one working that shift, and there was no sign of a break-in." I was furious. I knew I didn't do it. Trying to stay calm, I said, "Check the security cameras. You'll see it wasn't me." He walked into the back and checked. After about 10 minutes, he came out and apologized for accusing me of robbing the store. He also said the tips I was supposed to get were gone, too. He told me he'd pay me $100 to make up for the stolen tips. I thanked him and said, "Okay." He left, and I went back to stocking shelves and putting things away. I was curious, so I checked the security cameras myself to see who robbed the store. I couldn't tell because the man was wearing a mask, jeans, and a hoodie, both ripped up. But I knew who it was. The creepy stalker. I hoped that he wouldn't come back after he robbed the store, because he got what he wanted. So I wasn't as nervous that day. But when it rolled around to 7, that man came walking in. This time he grabbed a small bag of trinkets off the shelf and just bought that. It was $3.10. As he walked out of the store, he said, "Have a good day, Alyssa and Brian." How did he know my brother's name? I thought. I didn't say anything, I just stood there in disbelief. I described him to my brother, but he said he didn't know anyone that looked like that, and that he sounded like he was homeless. I agreed that he looked homeless. I was annoyed because, unfortunately, I knew he would be asleep when I got back, so I sighed and went back to working. Usually no one comes after 7 besides that creepy man. So when I heard the bell on the door ding, I thought he came back. I was scared, thinking he would rob the store again. I spun around and saw a woman grabbing a costume. I was relieved. I walked up to the counter. She bought the costume. She was very polite, which I was happy about, so it was very different from the creepy stalker. An hour later, it was time for me to leave. I got into my car. I saw a bright orange Jeep. At the time, I felt like I had seen it, but I couldn't remember where. I started driving home when I remembered where I saw it. It was following me a few nights before. Without looking, I knew who it was, the creepy, homeless-looking man. I was breathing heavily while I drove to my brother's apartment. I was speeding. I was too busy paying attention to the stalker that I made a wrong turn. I was confused when I didn't see the apartment building. I made a U-turn. I saw the man. It was the blonde-haired homeless man. I sped down the street and turned onto another road that I knew would lead to the apartment. When I got to the apartment parking lot, I was relieved when I noticed the man wasn't following me anymore. I still ran into the apartment. I was too worried to remember to get takeout for dinner. I unlocked the door to his apartment. The lights were off, but I saw a silhouette standing in the living room. I screamed and jumped back. They spun around. "I'm sorry, did I scare you?" he asked. It was my brother. "Why are you standing there with the lights off?" I yelled. He fully turned around to stare at me. "I was going to watch TV while I waited for you to come back since you wanted to talk, right?" he said. I smiled because he remembered, then I nodded. He turned on a light and gestured me over toward the couch. I sat down across from him. "You okay?" "You look scared," he asked. I nodded. "Just a little shaken up," I responded. I told him about what happened. He seemed genuinely as scared as I was. Not long after, we went to sleep. Over the weekend, I wasn't being stalked, but on my way to work on Monday, not many people came into the store that day. Only about 6. Usually about 20 people came in. When 7 came, so did the creepy man. At this point, I was annoyed and scared. He wandered around the store for a while. I wondered why, since he knew where everything was. This time, he didn't buy anything, but when he left, he said, "You're wearing that new shirt today." I was creeped out that he even noticed that. He was inside the store so long, it was already 8:30. I knew it was only a half hour till my shift ended, which I was happy about. This time on my drive back to the apartment, I didn't even notice if someone was following me. I was tired, so I went to sleep immediately. I woke up pretty late at 11 o'clock. My brother had long left for work. When I got to work, it was actually very busy. It seemed like about 30 or 40 people came in. It was 7:30 and I hadn't seen that man yet, but I spoke too soon. I saw him come walking in. I ran behind the counter. For some reason, it made me feel safer. He again wandered for what felt like hours, but was only 1. As he walked out, he said, "Tell your brother he made a good decision not to watch his mom's dog. German shepherds aren't good dogs." I was in shock. How would he know he said no to watching her dog? How did he know what type of dog it was? I had so many questions. I called my brother and told him. He was concerned and told me to come home early. I told him no, it was only 10 more minutes. When I got home, I couldn't sleep, so I just scrolled social media. After about 2 hours, I finally went to sleep. I woke up at 12:30 a.m. I scrambled out of bed when I saw the time. I got dressed and sped to work. I had to be there by 1, and I lived 20 minutes away. Again, I had to unload the delivery truck because it was Wednesday. When it reached 7, that man came walking in. This time, I finally asked what his name was. He looked at me and said, "Adam." He sounded angry. This time, he only wandered for about 10 minutes. As he left, he said, "Tell your sister Emily I said hey." I was shocked. My sister came by the day before to drop off a coat she bought for me while I was at work. How did he know that? I decided to call who was working at 7 on the weekend to see if he showed up then. I described him to the person that was working, and they said no one came in that looked like how they were described. That made me even more scared, that he knew what days I worked. On my way home, I called and told that to my brother. He was creeped out. He told me to keep a watch out to see if he was following me. He wasn't. I still got dinner on the way home. I got Burger King. When I got back, I was tired, so I ate my food and went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to my brother standing in front of my window. I asked him what he was doing. He said that he looked out my window because he heard what sounded like someone trying to break in. I didn't really process what he was saying since I was half asleep. I just told him to go back to sleep. Everything was fine. When I woke up, it was 5 in the morning. I got out of bed and saw my brother getting ready for work. I asked him again why he was looking out my window last night. He looked confused and said he never even stepped foot into my room. I told him what I saw and heard. He looked scared and asked me if I was feeling all right. "I'm not crazy," I yelled. "I'm serious. Are you okay?" he said. He was still staying calm. He left. I was scared and tired, so I went back to sleep. When I woke up, it was around 9. I ate breakfast, showered, and went to work. On my way, I decided to stop at an animal shelter. I saw a cat I thought was adorable. I said out loud, "I want that cat, it's so cute." But then I just left and drove to work. I didn't feel like dealing with Adam today, but I knew I had to anyway. This time I took a short break to go get donuts. When I came back, I walked into the back to restock. I grabbed a few costumes and started stocking the shelves. I turned behind a shelf and screamed when I saw a woman on that side of the store. She spun around. "I'm sorry," I said. She laughed. "I was looking for someone working here to grab me that costume up there," she said. "Sorry, I was on break." "I just came back," I said and handed her the costume. She thanked me and walked up to the register. After she left, it was 7. I knew Adam would be coming any second. And there he was, walking in. He grabbed a clown costume and set it down on the counter, then said, "Hey, hand me that right there." I was confused. I turned around. All that was there was a rack with pickup orders. I told him that. He seemed angry about it, but he didn't say anything, just paid for the costume and walked out. As he left, he said, "You really should have gotten that cat this morning." I was creeped out. He stalks me even at the store, I thought. I wanted my shift to end already, but it was another 2 hours still. When I got back home, I called my brother because I didn't see him anywhere in the apartment. He told me he'd be working late, probably until around midnight. I sighed. I was honestly terrified. Since that guy stalked me at the store, I was sure he did at the apartment too. I didn't say anything to my brother about it. I just told him I'd be asleep when he was finally back, even though I knew that was a lie. I was too scared to fall asleep. When he hung up, I made myself a meat sandwich. After I was done eating, I sat down on the couch and started watching TV. I got bored, so I went onto social media. After a few hours, I laid down in my bed, still scrolling through YouTube. When I heard a pounding on my window, I jumped, spun my head to look out the window. I saw nothing. It just scared me. There was a balcony that led down to the first floor because it's on the second floor. There are stairs you can come up straight to the apartment without even walking into the building. So I'm sure that Adam has been on the balcony, I thought. I shivered just at the thought of it. I finally fell asleep around 11. I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. As I left, I swore I saw a silhouette of a man standing in the kitchen. I called out to my brother to see if it was him. No response. I turned around and ran into my room and locked my door. My heart was pounding. I laid back down, freaking out. I texted my brother to ask if he was back yet. He responded, "No." That freaked me out even more. I shut my eyes tight and tried to forget about it. After about 20 minutes, I was asleep. When I woke up, it was day, and it was the weekend. I was glad about that because for 2 days, I didn't have to deal with creepy Adam. On Monday, it was time for me to go to work. When I showed up, it felt like something was off. Not anything missing, just different. It made me kind of nervous, especially after remembering what happened the night before. I brushed it off and went back to working. My sister called me. She asked if I could get her a princess costume for her daughter. I told her yes and said I would drop it off later that day. She thanked me and hung up. For some reason, time flew that day, probably because a lot of people were there. So I was busy and wasn't paying attention to the time. I knew it was around 7 when Adam came walking in. It was raining, so he looked even scarier than usual. He walked up to the counter, stared at me for a while, then said, "Do you have any clown costumes in the back?" I shook my head and said, "No, sorry." He nodded and went to leave. As he left this time, he said, "Hopefully your niece likes the costume." My eyes widened. I had that conversation in the morning, hours before he came in. I was terrified. Luckily, I got a call from my brother saying he would be home earlier, around 8. I smiled when I heard that, knowing I wouldn't be alone when I came back. I got Panda Express for us both. On my way back, my brother thanked me. After I was done eating, I asked if he would come with me to drop off the costume to my sister. He agreed. When we got back, it was around 11. I was tired since I didn't get much sleep the night before. I didn't bother telling him about last night. Somehow, I got pretty good sleep that night, probably because I slept in until 12. I got up and hurried to work. When I got there, everything was normal, until Adam. When he came, he seemed weirder than usual. He seemed like he just did something bad and wanted somewhere to hide. He didn't directly say that, but I knew that's how he felt. He again didn't buy anything, but he stayed there until exactly 8:30. As he left, he said, "You have to go through the side door to be able to get there." I knew what he meant. That is the only way to get to my brother's apartment. I didn't like what he just said. He had a sinister grin across his face. It creeped me out. Luckily, I only had to work another half hour. As I drove back to the apartment, I checked every so often to make sure I wasn't being followed. When I got back, I was happy I didn't get followed, but I still was scared. The next morning, as I drove to work, I was annoyed knowing I had to unload the delivery truck. It was Wednesday, and I just wasn't in the mood, but I had to anyway. As it got closer to Halloween, fewer and fewer people showed up since everybody already had their costumes. But again, Adam came in at 7. This time he got a small ghost-shaped marshmallow. As he left, he said, "The elevators are broken, so you have to go up the stairs." How did he know that the elevators were broken at the apartment? I had gotten more and more scared every day by how much he knew about me. My drive home was extremely stressful. I called my brother so I'd feel more safe. It felt better to tell someone than just sit there in silence. When I got back, I ran up the stairs as fast as I could. When I got back, I went to sleep while being terrified. The next morning, I didn't want to even get out of bed. When I was at work, I resisted the urge to call my boss and tell him I wasn't coming back. But I knew I would just finish the month. I told myself that I only had to work 4 more days. I took a deep breath and went back to working. It wasn't busy, so I got a lot of costumes organized and stocked. When at 7, I heard the bell ding, and there was Adam in the doorway. I ran behind the counter. He walked in a circle, then left. On his way out, he said, "I know where you live." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I couldn't move. I was in horror. I still had 2 hours until my shift ended. I immediately called my brother. He told me to come back before anything else happened. I didn't listen. I finished my shift and left as fast as possible. The next day, I was really scared, but I also knew I didn't have work the next 2 days, so I felt a little relieved about that. But I was dreading what he would say later that day when he came. I wanted to run, but I didn't. He grabbed a hat and that's all. As he left, he said, "On the 2nd floor." I knew he meant the apartment. That has the floor my brother's apartment was on. Luckily, he came late at 8:40, so only 20 minutes till my shift ended. When I got back, I scrolled social media until midnight, then went to sleep. It was all normal until Monday. I felt slightly better since I knew I only had to work that day and the day after. Surprisingly, there were a lot of people that showed up, mostly buying costumes for parties. When I heard the bell ding at 7:30, I knew it was Adam. He didn't buy anything, but as he left, he said, "5th room from the elevators." I knew he was talking about what room my brother's apartment was. When I got back, I went to sleep after eating and talking to my brother. In the morning, I was actually happy since it was my last day working there. There were no people in the store but me. No one showed up except Adam. He came in. As he left, he said, "You live on the 2nd floor, 5th room. Then read off the apartment number." I grabbed my keys and ran. He chased after me. I got into my car and drove as fast as possible. I sped down the road. I called and told my brother. He told me to come as fast as I could. When I parked, I got out of my car, ran up the stairs, and into the apartment. An hour after I was back inside the apartment, we heard banging on the door. I spun around. I looked through the peephole in the door. I saw Adam. I screamed. My brother came running. He asked what was going on. I told him to look out the peephole. He said he didn't see anything. Then we heard my window shatter. I started screaming. My brother ran into my room. He screamed, "Get out, I'm calling the police." Adam didn't even care. He ran out of my room and through the apartment. We hid in the bathroom. We called 911. Within 5 minutes, they were there. We ran out of the bathroom and up to the police. We told them we think he's still here. They started to search around the apartment. They found nothing except a broken window. They then searched around the whole building. They found a man. They asked me if it was him. It was. They arrested him. A few days later, they called and told me his real name was Freddie. He was arrested for 10 years. He also was charged for other crimes he had committed. Luckily, after he was arrested, I wasn't stalked anymore. Still, it was the scariest month of my life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell if you would enjoy hearing more spine-chilling stories. A new one will be released every Saturday. If you would like me to read one of yours, you can send it to me bitefear@gmail.com.